Amnesty International said it has information that the number of COVID-19 cases in prisons across the Republic of Cameroon is high. The rights group has said that it has evidence that the COVID-19 cases in prisons across the Republic of Cameroon are treated with hot liquid ginger and garlic. We'll have the details in this newscast. And former detainee of the Anglophone crisis, human rights lawyer and Anglophone leader, Barrister Agbo Bala, under pressure from the University of Boya and the Ministry of Higher Education for setting examination questions on the Anglophone crisis. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. prime time newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. And we begin this newscast with news on the COVID-19 pandemic in the Republic of Cameroon. Amnesty International says that it has information that the number of COVID-19 cases in incarceration centers across President Paul Biya's country is high. The rights group indicates that COVID-19 patients in prisons in Cameroon are treated with hot liquid mixed with ginger and garlic. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
Amnesty International, among other things, wants unfettered truth from the government of Cameroon concerning the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in prison facilities across the country. The rights group, in its most recent report, says it has information that the number of current and former detainees tested positive of the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon could be higher. Amnesty International confirms that at least one COVID-19 case was recorded at the Kundigi Maximum Security Prison in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, and went further to reveal that 2 sick detainees died shortly after their release in Cameroon, and one was buried in conditions applied to COVID-19 deaths without the presence of his family members. Amnesty International salutes the release of some prisoners in Cameroon following President Paul Biya's commutation of prison sentences, but says much remains to be done given that prisons are still highly congested in Cameroon. As measures to fight the spread of COVID-19 in prisons considered as potential epicenters, Amnesty International proposed the release of detainees who are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19, such as the elderly or persons with underlying medical conditions. Amnesty International's West and Central Africa researcher Fabian Ofner in the report said, and I quote, "Keeping elderly or sick people in detention or releasing them just to blow their last breath outside is inhuman. Authorities must treat prisoners with the respect due to their inherent dignity and values as human beings." End of quote. Painting a heartbreaking picture of what it calls inadequate medical care in prisons across Cameroon, Amnesty International reveals that most inmates who present COVID-19 signs and symptoms in Cameroon are treated using hot liquids mixed with ginger and garlic. Amnesty International notes with regret that the government of Cameroon has not confirmed or denied the presence of the coronavirus pandemic in detention facilities.
Health and administrative officials in the Tombel subdivision in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have put in place a mechanism to ensure that no COVID-19 cases recorded in that part of the country. Persons coming in are compelled to wash their hands before consultation by the health officials, and this is to avoid a positive or possible COVID-19 case in the locality, as Equinoxe as a report.
Make sure that nobody should enter the town without passing through you.
Here is one of the several COVID-19 control posts constructed at all entry points into Tombel subdivision of the Kupe Mandinguba division of the southwest region. a measure taken by the divisional officer after consultation with health and council officials to bar the way for the virus spread by ensuring all those entering Tombel are first tested to be sure they are not positive for the COVID-19.
But what we are trying to do is to make sure that we don't have that case here in Tombel. That is why we are trying to put all the measures in place to make sure that we don't have those cases here.
It's a very good one because if we don't follow this thing, so we will get cases for Tombel. But for now, we'll not get no case for Tombel, and we'll not pray for get any case for Tombel for life.
Measure enforced by security elements. Suspected cases are quarantined before they are transferred to Buya.
The SDO on the council, we have already chosen the site where to keep those suspected cases.
Tap buckets are also installed for hand washing before consultation.
Before you want to enter Tombel for Carrefour Tombel, you get to wash your hand for so that the taste you can contaminate people for Tombel.
Though lift of the restriction measures on snack bars, nightclubs, restaurants and other entertainment spots has been highly appreciated by the population, most of them still violate barrier measures, notably wearing of face masks and the social distancing rule while in these leisure and entertainment spots. To ensure these are respected, the divisional officer and his entourage have embarked on a warning and sensitization campaign.
We are saying that those measures are still to be accompanied by the forces, and we have to make sure that the distancing, the social distance as prescribed by government is respected. If we get into a drinking spot or even a restaurant, and we find that those distances are not respected, we will be obliged to close them because, the illness is still there and the measures instructed by government, they have to be followed at the later.
However, business persons like this meat vendor is happy with lifting of the measures on snack bars, for instance, as he can now maximize enough profit. The Tombel administration is now multiplying efforts to avoid recording any positive case following government's lift of barrier measures on businesses.
And as COVID-19 figures continue rising in the Republic of Cameroon, public health authorities and administrative officials are urging the population, Cameroonians and all persons living on the Cameroonian territory to continue respecting all the sanitation rules and the measures put in place by the government to stop the spread of COVID-19 in the country, indicating that the fact that government recently took some 19 decisions uplifting some restrictions that were earlier imposed within the framework of the fight against COVID-19 is not an indication that the pandemic has been defeated in Cameroon. It is still there. People are still dying. People are still being infected, and so all the barrier measures against the COVID-19 should be respected by all. In the meantime, health experts pointing out several loopholes in government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and urging governments to rectify the wrongs as soon as possible before things get to the worst. On to something else now. The fight against urban disorder in Izeka in the Nyong and Kele division, central region of Cameroon, has seen several houses demolished by council authorities and the owners of the houses. Some of them have been rendered homeless. They are decrying the action of the council authorities, even though they were occupying some places illegally. They had taken up on themselves to carry on with the construction of their houses without prior authorization from the council authorities. Immaculate Fogo has more.
An angry mother laments following the destruction of her house and several other buildings in Ezeka, Nyangankele Division, Central Region of Cameroon. It was at the middle of the night when a demolition crew was dispatched by Jacques Sylvain Moïse, mayor of Ezeka. We are not against development, reason why we opted for a change. I don't know why they decided to demolish our houses during such hard times. They would have waited a little longer. We are now faced with the economic crisis and the coronavirus pandemic, a situation that has made life extremely difficult for Cameroonians. Before carrying out such an act, the government should have thought of where to host them. I can still see several houses built along the streets that have not yet been demolished. I would love to know why. According to this inhabitant, the mayor had given the population a quick notice over a month ago. His reason to demolish the houses is due to the fact that they were built in a haphazard manner and that Ezeka needs a new facelift. The demolition process is being carried out less than 2 months after Jacques Sylvain Moïse was installed as mayor of Ezeka.
Immaculate Fogwe reporting that the American Bar Association has released a preliminary report on proceedings against detained Cameroonian journalist Samuel Ajeka Aboué, also known as Samuel Wazizi, journalist with CMTV in the southwest region of Chieftown, Boya. And the report says that Samuel Wazizi has spent more than 270 days incommunicado pre-trial detention, and the Fako High Court heard submissions on the habeas corpus petition that was filed by Wazizi's lawyers in November 2019. Last week, it also considered submissions on support of the American Bar Association Center for Human Rights request to officially observe the proceedings. And since the American Bar Association Center for Human Rights began monitoring the proceedings via its Justice Defenders Program, the matter has been postponed 5 times, and a decision on the habeas corpus petition and the center's observer status is expected tomorrow. And joining us on Skype is Barrister Tamfu Richard. He's a legal mind, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations. Barrister, you're welcome. The American Bar Association has released a preliminary report on the proceedings against detained Cameroonian journalist Samuel Wazizi of CMTV in the town of Boya, who has been detained for over 9 months incommunicado. What's your take on this?
Well, the detention of that journalist has been too long. I think it has gone beyond the required detention period. You can't detain somebody for more than that number of time without him having contact with either his lawyers or his family. I think that detention is a gross violation of the provisions provided by the Criminal Procedure Code. The Criminal Procedure Code provides that someone can be detained for 6 months renewable. I think the journalist at this present time is on illegal detention, and we can't still keep him incommunicado like that without him having access to his family and his lawyer.
And Cameroon, the American Bar Association is indicating that it requested, its Center on Human Rights, requested to officially observe that case, but it is expecting an answer to that request tomorrow, and the habeas corpus petition, the decision of the Fako High Court, is also expected tomorrow. But the problem is that Samuel Wazizi is accused and has been detained for several months without charges. How can we understand this? How can we explain this, Barrister? Barrister Tamfu Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations, speaking to us there on the case of detained Cameroonian journalist Samuel Wazizi for CMTV in the southwest region of Chief Town Boya, who has been detained for several months, and there are questions on his life, on what has been happening to him. And according to the American Bar Association, the fact that the journalist has been detained for over 270 days incommunicado. There are questions about what is happening to him. Is he being tortured? Is he being tormented where he's detained? Is he still alive? Is he already dead? There are lots of questions that are rising as a result of the fact that the Samuel Wazizi has been in incommunicado pre-trial detention for quite a long period of time, with nobody having information on his whereabouts, not even his lawyers, not even his relatives, colleagues and friends to have information on his whereabouts. He's accused of having links with separatist fighters, and when he was arrested and detained during one of the visits of some journalists, some members of the Journalist Trade Union in Cameroon, he said that he had nothing to do with all the accusations, notably accusations that he had offered his farm for separatist fighters to use as a camp. However, he's still been detained incommunicado. Barrister Tamfu Richard, we lost him. We'll be coming back to that and other issues in the second part of this newscast. Time for us to talk about an accident that occurred earlier today in the Bonaberi Douala 4 subdivision, and one person died in that accident, and several others were injured. We have details with Smanjik and Gabriel.
Another ugly day for inhabitants of the Douala 4 subdivision. We are at the west entrance into Cameroon's economic capital, where a lorry transporting sand coming from Banga in its attempt to escape from a road control met in a head-on collision with another lorry transporting cement leaving the town of Douala. As a result of this accident, a certain Fuju Ernest, a chicken vendor, lost his life, but onlookers say more lives would have been lost if it wasn't raining in Douala.
Because rain dropped this morning, and if not, only
it was because of the downpour that was in Douala that we recorded just one person who died. Where the cars entered is a place two mothers selling puff balls do their business.
For your shop, they know it's done for down.
Most of our customers this morning were standing and not sitting.
We always stand wrong. We wrong go stand for corner the wall from the table before we even say it got candy sign. Thank God for the rain may fall, because if that rain not before this morning, disaster for be this morning time. Not be only one man, the poor man may he so rest in peace. Where camion clear on top.
All of the chicken belonging to late Fuju Ernest also perished as a result of the incident, with just one showing signs of still being alive. Apart from the sand and cement lorries which came on a head-on collision, two other cars, one inter-urban transport bus and another car, were caught in the accident. The timely intervention of the Army Rescue Unit from Godi enabled the body of Fuju Ernest to be retrieved and taken to the Bonasama mortuary. The accident has been blamed on excess speed on the part of the lorry driver who was entering into Douala from Banga with sand.
one person dead, an enormous material damage recorded. No other person was injured in that accident, as earlier announced on the simply because, as you heard in that report, it was raining and several persons who were still standing in the area, had left the place to seek for shelter. International human rights lawyer Barrister Agbo Felix Nkongo, under disciplinary pressure from authorities of the University of Buea and the Minister of Higher Education of Cameroon. He was expected on the campus of the University of Buea today to answer questions for setting examination questions on the Anglophone crisis. The legal mind was absent at the university's disciplinary council session because, according to him, the manner in which he was summoned did not respect the ministerial circular of 2017. The circular states that a summons should be served at least 5 days before the session, and the invitation letter summoning Barrister Agbo Bala was served to him May 5, 2020, less than 24 hours to the session. He says he cannot be intimidated. Take a listen to Barrister Agbo Bala in this extract.
I did not attend because due process was not respected. I mentioned in my memorandum to appear under protest, a 4-page memorandum in which I stated my reasons why I would not attend. Not attending doesn't mean I was trying to show disrespect to the institution, and as I said in my memo, it's an institution that I hold in very high esteem. You know, for an Anglophone and somebody who has always supported the independence and the Anglo-Saxonness of the institution, I would not disrespect the authorities of the institution. But also, as somebody who fights against injustices, who fights for a fair society, for the rule of law and a fair hearing, the whole procedure was completely disregard and disdain for the principle of fair hearing. So I thought it was necessary for me not to attend.
Now, can you just detail us a bit on that?
Well, the rules are clear. You know, you could also appear there, or you could also send a written submission. But my memorandum of appearance on the protest was telling them that I'm not coming. When laid down principles will be respected, I would attend. That's what I said, you know, because we cannot keep flaunting the laws of the institution, of the country, and we claim that we protect the rule of law. I cannot be somebody who spend most of my adult life crusading against injustices in all shapes and form, fighting for the respect of the fundamental rights of others, and when it comes to me, I don't raise my voice. And don't forget, it's not just about me. It goes beyond me. You know, what about those who might not be able to raise their voices? What kind of precedent am I setting if I go to the disciplinary council when I know that it flies in the face of all logic? It flies in the face of all sane society. It flies in the face of all civilized universities. I would not be a party to an illegality. I would not be a party to go and make some people feel good. You know, because as I said today on social media, Jato, it comes a point in time when this country, the state, should know that not everybody can be bullied.
Barrister Agbo Bala speaking there. He will be joining us in the second part of this news. Before that, President Paul Biya has signed 2 decrees containing details on the reorganization and functioning of the Kribi and Olimbe deep sea ports in the south and southwest regions of the country, respectively. It took 21 years for the Limbe Port Authority to see daylight, and some young people took to the streets in the town of Limbe today, thanking the head of state for that decision. Talking Point is up next. Talking Point is coming up next, and I said that we are receiving Barrister Agbo Bala today, who is joining us on Skype from Buea. Good evening, Barrister. Thanks for joining us in Talking Points. Barrister Agbo Bala, good evening.
Good evening, Jonathan.
Thanks for joining us today. All right, Barrister Agbo Felix Pongo, you're under disciplinary pressure from the University of Boya and the Ministry of Higher Education for setting examination questions on the Anglophone crisis. Is it a crime to set questions on the Anglophone crisis?
Well, I don't know, Jonathan. You asked those who summoned me to attend a disciplinary today. I don't know whether any part of the world. Yes, it might be a crime in Soviet Russia. It might be a crime during the Stalinist era. It might be a crime in North Korea. You know, but a civilized society, in a democratic society, in an Anglo-Saxon university, it would be an affront to common sense to think that it would be a crime.
Now, you were not on the campus of the University of Boya today, and you indicated in the extract aired in this newscast that you were not there because the manner in which you were summoned did not respect the ministerial circular of 2017. Is that the only reason why you decided not to attend?
No, Babila, due process must be respected. Okay, before a teacher is summoned in front of a disciplinary council, there are some laid down procedures that have to be respected. There has to be a prior investigative panel that has to someone invite the teacher to hear his own part of the story. It's after that panel meets that the recommendation is sent to the disciplinary council for a meeting to be held. In addition, also the period of notice. You know, the circular talks of a minimum of 5 days. And from a lawyer's perspective, when a document says you must be given 5 days notice, it's a mandatory. It's not a may, which you have the option of giving the 5 days or not. So I believe that due to the fact that due process was not respected, but also there's a lot of bad faith manifested by the university. You know, the allegations against me are flimsy. To me, honestly, I don't see why you would bring a lecturer, a teacher, an instructor in front of a disciplinary commission for as flimsy as a reason as setting a question that touches and concerns the Anglophone crisis. I respected the disciplinary commission. I respected the university. It's a university that I hold in very high esteem. I've been teaching in that university for 5 years. My students will tell you that I'm very professional. I respect them. I teach them to the best of my abilities. And Jonathan, let me tell you something. That particular course, I was given that course about 2 weeks before they wrote the continuous assessment. I was originally not the one to teach the course, but the teacher who was to teach that course was assigned somewhere. He wasn't in Boya. And I was called, they pleaded to take over the course. I expect to have a medal, you know, for doing that, not to be invited for a disciplinary committee. You know, so these are the kind of things that I find it disrespectful. I mean, to show complete disdain and disregard for the laws and institutions of the state, to me, it's an affront. And I want to make a point. You know, you cannot zombienize the university. You cannot twist people in the university. We have passed the 60s and the 50s, you know, where people were bullied and they threatened and blackmailed. It's not going to work. It might work for others, but it's not going to work for people like us. We would always have to stand our ground. We would also would leave a legacy for posterity. We would fight for those who cannot fight. We would raise our voices for those who cannot raise their voices. So next time, if UB wants to violate its laws, the regulations that created the higher institution, the decrees and the circular, they would think twice. To me, that is the thing. Set a precedent that others would have to follow. And next time, if they want to summon somebody in front of the disciplinary commission, they would respect the rules and regulations laid down for disciplinary measures.
Barrister, can we know a little more about the content of the questions? Maybe that's where there's a problem.
Yeah, the question was basically a question asking students to assess the veracity of the fact that the Anglophone crisis was started by the protest from teachers and lawyers. It wasn't a question that said the crisis started as a result of the protests of teachers and lawyers. The students were supposed to assess, and they had a right to say yes or no. My students will tell you that I normally tell them in class that you have to have an independent mind. I was taught by Bate Bison, one of the finest in this country's ever had, and he will always remind us in class, the student's mind must be seen. And I tell my students that you have right to disagree with the lecturer, because it's not like what the lecturer says is like sacrosanct. You know, you have a right. So it's a question. And I taught the Anglophone crisis, I taught the special state within the confines of Cameroon. You know, it's political and constitutional history of Cameroon. How can you talk about the political history of this country without talking about the Anglophone crisis, without talking about the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium that shaped the life of this country, without talking about the protests of teachers and lawyers? It would be intellectually dishonest not to teach these students this. And what do you have to talk about? How will you teach students without talking about the Fullman Accord, without talking about the period of federation in Cameroon? No. You know, this is teaching that is relevant to your community. You cannot be teaching political and constitutional history of a country and you're citing examples only in France and in the UK and in the US. No, we have to move. When I was going to attending university, they always cited examples in London and in the US. I will give my example of something happening around my community because the students understand better. You know, you bring the lecture to their homes and to their minds. But unfortunately, perhaps it's because I was the one who taught that course. I was the one who gave the particular exam. Because I think in many universities in this country, in high schools, exams, and they've talked about the Anglophone crisis. What is a taboo? What is taboo in it? Who doesn't know about the crisis? Who doesn't know that the crisis has shaped the way politics and things are done in this country? So to me, it's the class that I'll be invited, you know, to discuss a very petty issue like that. I mean, we have serious things to do in the university. The university is supposed to be the citadel of knowledge. It has to be the finest, the intelligentsia, you know. It has to be the academic El Dorado. UB is supposed to be the maker of intellectualism in this country. Like you're going to the pilgrimage. It's the Rome, you know, it's the Jerusalem of excellence. But unfortunately, I'm stunned.
Barrister, with regards to the tense socio-political atmosphere of the country, particularly the two Anglophone regions of the country, is there no risk of provoking some sort of a revolution or violence by setting questions on the Anglophone crisis, which is a burning issue, a burning problem today in Cameroon?
Mr. Babila Jonathan, I mean, I've been consistent for about 30 years, okay? In 2000, I wrote a thesis on the right to self-determination, and I argued that federation would be a panacea. I've never been one to incite violence against the state. I am someone who believes in the force of argument and not the argument of force. I believe in intellectual swordplay. I believe in debates and discussions. I would not for once incite violence against the state. We cannot run away from our history. Okay? We need to face it on so that we can be able to address the issues and find a long-lasting solution. You're pretending to woo. I understand the political, the tense situation in the country, but it doesn't stop the fact that also that there are factual things, that events that we have to talk about it. Why don't we teach students about these events, and so that they can understand it and then prepare their minds that in the future, if they have such a problem, they can find a solution. It's not shying away from me, you know. My professional conscience will not warrant me to incite violence in class. And I heard at times they said I use my class to talk and teach politics. Man is a political animal. I challenge them to bring records of the fact that I spend most of my time. No, my students will tell you that I might make an analogy, because I believe in intellectual license. I might make an analogy to a political intent, but I would not spend my time talking about politics. there is nothing wrong in the question. I think the only problem is that the question came from a certain barrister Agbonpoku.
Right. Before we proceed to talk about the case of detained Cameroonian journalist Samuel Wazizi, Barrister Agbo, I want us to take a look at the security situation of the southwest region, where you are at this point in time. What's the situation in the southwest region today?
Well, I think that the security situation is getting better. Most people, I think they stay out a little bit late at night. We don't have any major attacks. You know, people are going around their normal businesses. From where I live and from what I see, I think life is getting back to normal. You know, but it doesn't mean because life is getting back to normal, we should not find a solution to the situation. We should not ask questions that how did we get to where we are today? Those are fundamental questions that we would have to ask. Otherwise, we might have a cosmetic peace. We might have a phony peace. You know, remember during the period of the Second World War, there was a time when there was a phony war, like neither peace nor war. So I think that, yes, notwithstanding the fact that we say we should be the leaders of this country, both parties to the conflict should find a solution so that it would be, the security would be, the peaceful situation would be kind of permanent, and where everybody will feel relaxed, and we would, you know, embrace each other and understand that we can disagree without being disagreeable, and that, you know, it's not your way or the highway, and that whatever problems we have, we can always find a solution.
Right. Barrister, the American Bar Association has released a preliminary report on the proceedings against detained Cameroonian journalist Samuel Ajeka Aboué, also known as Samuel Wazizi of CMTV, who has been detained for several months today incommunicado. You are a human rights lawyer. You're the president of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. What do you think about this?
This is an unfortunate situation. Wazizi has been held incommunicado a very long time. The Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa did some investigation, including, you know, calling on government to show life, to show that Wazizi exists. You know, this is a gross violation of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also fundamental rights enshrined in the Cameroonian Constitution, also his right on the CPC. I think it's incumbent on government to show us that Wazizi is alive. You know, no matter what Wazizi might have been accused of, he should have his day in court. You know, I mean, justice should not only be done, but it should be seen to be done. But the perception of justice not being done, it's clear in a situation where he's not been produced in court, you know. No one knows whether he's alive. His lawyers don't have access to him. His friends and families don't have access to him. I am not someone who believes in conspiracy. So I don't want to believe in any conspiracy theory. I am urging the government to ensure that he's brought to court.
But is there any legal explanation to the fact that somebody, not only the journalist, is detained for several months without charges? Is there any legal explanation to that?
No, it can only happen in a jungle, but we are not a jungle, so I expect that Wazizi would be brought to court. I expect that the government should prove that Wazizi is still alive. I expect that they will grant unfettered access to the Wazizi's lawyers, because that is a fundamental right. You have right to visitation by your family, your friends, and also by counsel. So it's inexplicable. It's inexplicable, and it's something that really beats my imagination. You know, When you think you've seen everything about the state, you realize that you've not seen everything, that there are lots of things that you see. I am optimistic, I'm hopeful. I empathize with the family, I empathize with what is it. I try to put myself in the shoes of the family. You know, I try to put out in the shoes of his lawyer, his friends, and what he's going through. You know, it's very traumatic to be held incommunicado without any access to anybody. It could be traumatizing.
All right, Barrister, let's wrap up with your remarks, observations as far as the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon is concerned.
I think the government is trying, you know. The fight would not depend only on government. The citizens also would have to join. You know, each and everyone has a role to play in the fight against COVID. That is why Chada, which I heard, has been taking the lead in the fight against COVID in our small community. Today we were in Bamenda 3 with Yosa, where we provided face masks, buckets, and liquid soaps to men and women, and especially to the minority rural community. We've done similar in Yaoundé, we've done it in Mampe, in Tiko, in Garua, you know, in Nimbe. So it's incumbent on each and every one to do something. You know, I just feel bad that after the measures were relaxed, most people think that we've conquered COVID. Most people, I saw people today, a lot of them not wearing their face masks. People sit in bars and we don't respect physical or social distancing. I just pray, I just urge everybody, yes, we need to go about our normal life, but let us try to find respect social distancing.
Human rights lawyer Barrister Agbo Bala, lecturer at the University of Buea and president of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it today.